So today we're interested in learning and discussing about the power of why as leaders. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how your external communications, your branding and marketing can really be super powered by understanding your why as a business leader. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Alicia Nagel. I have been a branding, marketing strategy, and graphic design consultant for the last 17 years, and I've worked with over 130 brands. I've also released a DIY branding course called Create Brands Gold, and I truly live, eat, sleep branding and marketing. It is my passion. I do a lot of things. I also do stuff like naming for companies, logo design, taglines, also marketing in general. So fractional CMO services, which is like an Alicia Nagel Creative debit card where you get a chief marketing officer just for a few hours a month, as well as marketing plans, content strategy, and then design stuff too. I design websites, logos, packaging, signage, apparel, print collateral, all the good stuff. And then I feel like everybody truly deserves and needs branding and marketing. So when I have the time, I share free resources, interviews, and advice on a website called hustlewithaloha.com. That's probably where this will end up later, assuming the recording is successful. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with Simon Sinek, but he has an amazing TED Talk on how great leaders inspire action. And it's all about the why. People don't buy necessarily what you do or how you do it, but they really buy into, no pun intended, why you do something. I like to think about Nike's tagline as an example of this. Their tagline is just do it. But their tagline is not sports equipment for the gutsy athlete. It's not, we try really hard to make amazing sports equipment. It's just do it. And that's the why behind why they exist. They want to empower the everyday person to just get out there and get active. And it's a really captivating rallying cry. So that's, in my opinion, an example of how the why behind something can be really inspiring. So in the brand strategy process, there are several key places which your why is going to really make a difference. And I'm going to touch on all of those today. This is the overarching brand strategy process that I use. And I want to just reassure you as well that yes, I am obsessed with branding, but I'm not the only one. Forbes Business Magazine says the right branding strategy, powerful, consistent depictions of your brand via marketing is perhaps more critical for a company's success than product design or quality, which to me is just amazing. What they don't say is that it can also make you more efficient and effective. That's because branding helps you say the right thing in the right way to the right person at the right time. Studies show that 80% of consumers are more likely to do business with a company that offers personalized experiences. But as a small business owner, how are you supposed to make all of these people feel personalized and special? Well, branding helps you identify just the people who are more likely to be interested in what you have to say and what you offer. When you do this, you take the classic sales funnel, and I like to say you cut the wings off. It becomes more of a branding sales tube because the people that you're targeting from the beginning are more likely to be interested in what you sell at the end. It also means more of them are likely to become brand super fans. So some suddenly your marketing budget, instead of being sprayed at everybody and like a spray and pray thing, if you're trying to wash something, suddenly you have a laser focused power washing tool. I guess is my analogy that I'm using, and a little water goes a lot longer, a lot farther. So what does branding look like in action? Well, branding does tell a story, but not just any story. It tells your story, your unique story, and it's got to be a story customers care about. I like to say that there's a lot of myths out there about branding. And so sometimes it's easier to understand what branding is not to help you understand what branding is. So I'm just going to go through a few of them. First of all, branding is not just for big corporations. People choose to do business with brands that they can connect with, and that's any brand. Small businesses who tell their brand story well are going to resonate with customers. Some local examples are Buc-ee's. They really let the personality shine through. And I don't know about you, but I love their billboards. They're so funny. How about local breweries? They really shine a light on their quirkiness. How about Foxtail Coffee? I'm realizing a lot of you don't live here, so this is maybe a little bit less relevant. Foxtail Coffee is like a local Starbucks chain, but they're super local. Rockledge Gardens, they started out selling plants, and now they have a whole experience that's really geared towards weddings and events. So you can get like a drink and walk around with a cart and go plant shopping, which anytime you can encourage people to drink and shop at the same time, I'm sure sales go up. And in fact, in our region, they recently rebranded the whole coast and called it Florida Space Coast, because we're where Cape Canaveral is, and NASA and Blue Origin and all of that stuff is happening here, which is pretty unique. Branding is also not just for B2C companies. People first make choices with their emotions, and then they seek facts to back up their purchase decision that they already made with their gut. That means that it could totally be a startup, a co-working facility. It could be anything from QuickBooks to any other proprietary tools, Zoom, Microsoft Office, stuff like that. All of those companies are also doing branding to win over the emotions of the business owners that they're appealing to, and then they back up the reason to get you to buy with more tangible facts. So branding is also not a luxury, and actually it will save you money and make you money. Some examples are, I redesigned a website for this woman who she literally owns a herd of goats in Walla Walla, Washington, and milks them to make goat milk soap. And she wasn't telling her story at all on her previous website. So not only was it redesigned to look more visually attractive, but we truly told the story of Midnight Oil Soap Company, highlighting the individual goats, the herbs that she uses to put into the soap. And she said that in the week after launch, she had a record sales day, which is fantastic. But keep in mind, this actually was in the middle of summer, not around the holidays. And she was in business since like 1999. So just the fact that a new look and feel and a new storytelling enhanced her sales makes me very happy. Another example of a brand strategy making more money for a company. This company grows coffee beans in Hawaii, and they actually won a pretty significant award for their cacao beans. And they weren't really talking about it too much. And this is the packaging before, which is just a cardboard piece that folds up. And so they hired me to redesign it, and we really infused the personality behind the brand. And if you think about it, they're in Hawaii and people are on vacation. So it looks like an aloha shirt. And they said that after the redesign, people were grabbing their chocolate bars by the handful, which, considering it's a $12 chocolate bar, I think that that really helped their sales. So some more branding myths. Your brand is not your logo. Your logo is the single most concentrated visual expression of your brand. And your brand is not simply who you say you are. It's got to be also how you perceived. If you're saying you're one thing as a company and how you're perceived as another, that's called a brand gap, and it's not good. It makes you feel untrustworthy as a brand, just like a human being saying one thing and doing another, or saying one thing and then being perceived as something else. It's really important that those two things are aligned. We want our customers to trust us, because as Zig Ziglar says, if people like you, they'll listen to you, but if they trust you, then they're going to do business with you. And lastly, I have some fantastic news. Brands are not created, they're discovered. That means that everybody here on this call already has a brand. You already have a brand. This is just about discovering it. Most of the process of the brand strategy is called archaeology. And then the last part is called alchemy. I do this purposefully because archaeology emphasizes that you're digging around and trying to find things that already exist. You're looking for interesting elements, artifacts that indicate the culture, but you're not creating anything. And then once you have these interesting elements of your brand, we're holding them up to the light. We're thinking about how to combine them to tell a unifying story. We're looking for themes. We're looking for the big brand essence that we can learn about your business and infuse it into all your marketing. And that creation of the essence is what I call alchemy, because at that point you're taking the existing elements and you're forging them together, you're distilling them, you're trying to combine them into something that hopefully creates brand gold, which is why I called my course that. So I know this seems like a lot, whether I do it as a consultant or you do it yourself in the course. You've got a roadmap so you can follow along and it's not as intimidating. So I'm going to go through the process and highlight the parts where your why is particularly important. So when you're discovering your brand, obviously the most basic thing is your company profile. Now, your benefits and your reputation are incredibly informed by your why as a business owner. And I say your benefits because the question that we didn't get a chance to answer earlier was, what do you do as a business owner, as a professional, that you don't have to do, but you believe that it adds value? It increases the quality of the service or product that you offer. That is something that why you do that is a fantastic story to be highlighting on the benefits, because it's truly benefiting the target audience. And it often sets you apart from the competition, because your competitors are not like clamoring to do a bunch of extra stuff that you're doing that they don't have to. So your why can really set you apart in this regard. I also want to make the distinction between tangible benefits and intangible benefits. A tangible benefit is something that you can see, experience, point at, look at. For example, if you have a car, a tangible benefit might be it has a V8 engine and it allows you to go really fast. However, the intangible benefit is that it makes you feel like a freaking badass, right? You can't point at that. You can't put your finger on it. You can't taste it, but it's definitely a motivation for people to buy a car with a V8 engine. Some other examples of how companies work the intangible benefits into their marketing messaging. This Happy Egg company, they a little tiny flyer inside, you guys, that's like a newsletter for the chickens, and they have names and stuff like that. This company doesn't have to do that, but it's something that's important to them. And if you are someone who's into animal welfare, which I am, I'm willing to pay quite a bit of money for eggs where I feel like the chickens had a good life. And so the intangible benefit is really motivating to me. And they're doing something that they don't have to do. What about Triscuit? They really strive to inspire you to put stuff on top of the Triscuit. A lot of crackers do this. Every box has like this really artisan stuff on top. And this is an example of my boyfriend and I trying to be artisan by putting something that roughly looks like it on top of the cracker. And what they're selling is like, you too can be an artisan cracker topper. It's an intangible benefit. It makes you feel fancy just by buying a box of crackers. So by thinking about what you do that is unnecessary, but you feel like it adds to your business, this can really help with the tangible and intangible benefits. I also mentioned reputation. That's kind of a no-brainer, but your why is, it infuses the passion into what you do. And if you are passionate and you're positive and you're a small business owner, that is magnetic. And that is going to go with you wherever you go for referral marketing, whether you're speaking like this, whether you're working with vendors and stuff like that. So letting your why infuse how you are experienced in the world as a reputation as a business owner can be really captivating. The next phase of the brand strategy process that I'm going to talk about how why factors into is your competitive environment. So one of the most basic things about the competitive environment is it's the problems you solve. And I think this is more important to consider than your actual quote unquote competitors, because a lot of times people are owners of a business that does something innovative, and it's tempting to think that you have no competitors if what you do is kind of disruptive to the marketplace. However, the problem that you solve as an innovative business, it didn't just pop up randomly when you popped up. That problem already existed before you, and your target audience was doing something to solve it. They were cobbling together a solution, or they were using something that was maybe like not perfect for it. Or, in my opinion, the most insidious competitor, maybe they were doing nothing and just letting the problem exist. So when you think about why you exist, we want to help people. And so we want to solve their problems. So the more that you can infuse your desire to be helpful so that someone can succeed or someone can thrive or someone be healthy, that's really an altruistic thing that is fantastic to infuse into your branding and marketing. So when you think about the problems you solve, don't just think about the competitors that are doing exactly what you do, but in general, why you exist. An example of this is if, for example, you're a skateboard shop, you might think that your only competitors are other skateboard shops, but the problem that you're solving, quote unquote, or the itch that you're scratching in the target audience is to have fun and do tricks and to like be in urban environments and be social. And it turns out a BMX bike or a razor scooter could also, quote unquote, solve that problem. So as a skateboard shop owner, if you only focus on other skateboard shops in the area and think of them as competitors, you're ignoring all of these other possible competitors over here. As Marty Neumeier likes to say, when everybody zigs, zags. So you're not just zigging, you got to look at who else is doing creative things to quote unquote solve that problem or scratch that itch. The next aspect of the brand strategy process that is affected by your why is your unique selling points. So in the audience decision-making process, we start off with awareness. So people didn't even know that what you do was an option. I mentioned an innovative business because specifically they might not even know that a company like yours exists or a service like yours exists. So first of all, they learn that something like you exists in the world. And then they're under consideration as to whether or not they would like to do business with you. So they're looking for more information, they're interacting with your brand, they're going to your website, they're examining the packaging, they might be looking at reviews online, what have you. It depends on the industry and the product, right? And then number 3, at this point, they're making a decision with their heart, whether or not they want to do business with you. Studies show that we make the decision with our gut first, and then we look for tangible facts, not tangible, justifiable facts to like back up our decision that we've already made. So this is where they're going to look for those bullet points. They're going to look for that social proof, and they're going to look for something that helps them feel good about the purchase. It could be intangible benefits as well. And then lastly, the deciding factor is there's going to be some sort of like yes, and they're going to decide to do business with you. So your unique selling points are really important in this because they're things that set you apart from the competition, and that show that you're a better option than doing nothing, and that show that you understand what they're going through. So as they're considering and justifying doing business with you, your why is really helpful because it's going to be a strength or feature that benefits the audience, and it's got to be unique or at least rare. And so your whys really help identify this. It's the stuff that you do that you don't have to. It's your passion and charisma. It's your belief in helping people. And you're ultimately solving their problems, which is how it's benefiting the target audience. So your why can really should be weaved into your unique selling points. And then lastly, we have the personality phase of the brand strategy process. There's something that I like to call brand spirit. And this is truly, it's like your ethos, your philosophy, your something a little bit spiritual about why you're in business. A lot of you said the helping people thing, but it's kind of like you believe everybody deserves to be healthy. You believe that every business owner deserves to be supported so that they can do what they are best at. They can live in their flame. You believe that everybody deserves to have their butt covered by insurance so that they can live their truest life. It's a pretty lofty thing. So if you dig deep on your why, this can become a really captivating reason for people to do business with you. Patagonia, they're so good at it. They do an amazing job. They literally, they lobby politically for public lands. I'm getting goosebumps. They're pioneered the down jackets that have the down that's collected from the geese that doesn't hurt them. They pioneered making fabric out of recycled pop bottles or soda bottles, depending on what part of the country you're from. And so when you dig on your why, you might uncover some initiatives that you want to take on as a business that align with why you believe you're here on this earth to do this profession. And those are really special. They really are. It doesn't have to be that wildly expensive, or you don't have to lobby with the government. You could even just like give back to a local nonprofit that you believe in. You could, if you do a conference, you could do a raffle that's for something in particular that aligns with your belief. One of my clients is a jewelry designer, and she allies with local nonprofits and works with them to design a custom piece of jewelry that's inspired by what they do. And then at their next gala, she makes a limited edition, like custom design piece just for them. And she only has a few of them, and they raffle, it's not a raffle. What is it called when you bid on things? They
Oh,
auction them off. Thank you. And all of the proceeds goes to the nonprofit. So it highlights her unique abilities as a custom jewelry designer. It benefits the nonprofit. And it's just a fun thing to share on social. So I encourage you to use the why to think about how you could do something that's more spiritual in some way that has to do with your business. I know this is a lot, and I've been called by more than one client a brand therapist. But I do promise that if you go through the branding process, it really truly does lay a really solid foundation for your marketing, and it allows you to speak in an authentic, consistent way that shows up as helpful and not salesy. So once you have all these elements for the archaeology and you've dug those up, big idea is where we're taking those and pulling them together. And in this phase, the most important aspect that is totally infused with your why is, of course, storytelling. I like to say that we are humans and we love a good story. That's why it's called history, his story, not his fact. From the beginning, we've been telling stories as humans, and that is what gets remembered. If you can weave your why into a captivating story, it's more likely to pull at people's heartstrings, to um, win them over in their hearts so that they already want to do business with you and they're just like looking for reasons to justify that choice. It helps you be something that can easily be passed along. If you can, the shorter the better. I tend to be a little bit of a long storyteller, but a tagline is not a paragraph, it's just a couple of words. As Saul Bass says, symbolize and summarize. He's one of the old school famous logo designers that I'm a huge fan of. If you're curious, you can come up. An example of this is a client that I did some tagline writing for, Hemingway Land Company. They sell undeveloped parcels of land across the United States, everything from lava covered jungle land in Hawaii to Arizona and New Mexico, Colorado. They keep expanding. And believe it or not, there's actually a market for this. Quite a bit of people are interested. And what they're selling is not really much of anything. It's a promise, right? It's undeveloped land. There might not even be electricity or a road out to it. It could literally be anything. And so it they need to captivate people in like dreaming about what could be possible. And then their target audience, challengingly enough, was split between people who were quite conservative and wanted to politically conservative and wanted to live off the land in terms of hunting. Maybe they were preppers and they wanted to get away from society and just like soak up the great America. And this really scratched an itch for them, this idea of owning undeveloped land. And then on the complete other side of the political spectrum, they also had a segment of the target audience that were quite liberal. They wanted to have drum circles and live in geodesic domes and grow their own plants and catch their own water and also get away from everybody and soak up nature. And so the way we presented the brand had to speak to both people without alienating either one of them. So the tagline I came up with is Own Your Horizon, which speaks to both people, as well as they had a third audience motivation, which was to buy something that would have something they could pass along to their generations over family. So if you think about the horizon, you think about the next generations that are going to take things over. So this is an example of how a big story can get distilled into a very little tagline. And it also speaks to the why, right? It's that dream, it's the potential. It wouldn't be quite as captivating if the tagline was buy some undeveloped land from us. It's better if it says own your horizon. Um, I do want to reassure you that rebranding actually is a myth. Logos can get a refresh, but you don't ever really want to like lay dynamite and blow it up and start over from the beginning. There's something called brand equity. As your business exists over time, it's developing a reputation. It's getting known for things. There's associations that are getting built with it. So you don't ever really want to take the visual expression, the logo, or really the name for that matter, and start over completely. You want to present it as like an evolution of the story, an evolution of the visual elements. Some examples of this are some logo design redesigns that I did. Hawaii Island Adult Care. This is a lehua blossom, which previously, as you can see, it's pretty, but it doesn't look very professional or medically based. And, you know, they were providing semi-medical care for, aunties and uncles who are aging and their families were really concerned about them. So it needed to look respectable, but they still wanted to retain the story of the lehua blossom, which is revered by Hawaiian culture. It's one of the first plants that breaks up the lava rock and turns it into soil. So this is an example where the story is the same, the elements are the same, but it looks different. Another example is Big Island commercial properties. We have the buildings growing up out of the horizon, and it looks like success. But the owner was, he's a local surfer boy, and he wanted something that he could get puff embroidered on his hat, and that was his personality, and that was his network. And so the logo and the visual look and feel of his company needed to reflect his core brand. So in the new logo, we still have the buildings rising up out of the horizon, but it kind of feels like it could be on an O'Neill shirt or something like that. So once you have your brand strategy, you record it in something called a brand strategy book. It's basically a guide that outlines the stuff that I had in that infographic so that when you communicate, you can refer back to it and you can show up with a consistent voice, which helps you feel trustworthy. I like to say if you keep saying the same thing in the same way, people start to feel like it's true. But if you keep saying different things in different ways, people start to wonder if you know what you're talking about, right? So it's important to be consistent to show up as trustworthy. You want to be authentically reflecting your brand. So if you take the time to uncover your why and infuse that into everything, that's not something that's likely to change. Like what you believe in as a human and why you do what you do is not a fluctuating, ephemeral thing. If you can harness that and infuse it into stuff, you'll show up as authentic. And anytime you can show up as authentic, it's always going to be captivating. It also helps you cut through the clutter. You are uniquely you. Yes, we all want to help people, but in different ways. And we are harnessing our talents to allow us to do that. And by telling your unique story of how you do what you do and the things that you choose to do to make what you do special, it's going to be a little bit different and it will cut through the clutter. It'll also help you get remembered. Maya Angelou said, I wish I remembered the quote exactly. She said something about people will forget what you say or what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And if you show up as authentic and trustworthy and passionate, and you tell people why you exist on this planet, you're going to get remembered as someone who wants to make a difference. So lastly, just tell your brand story. And this book, if you record all these things and have it as like a unifying thing, you could have it as a printed book, like from my course, or you could just have it noted in a document. You can also use it to get investors. This is a private placement memorandum that I designed for a high-end sushi restaurant in Los Angeles. We put the financials in with it, but we started off with the brand story. Because if you're investing in a high-end expensive sushi restaurant in Los Angeles, it's probably not a monetarily like inspired investment. These restaurants are not profitable for like the first 2 years. You're probably investing it because it's cool. You want to take your friends there for sake tasting. You want to just show up and like be able to waltz into the kitchen or any number of things that you would associate with funding a high-end sushi restaurant. So we decided to include this with the founders of the restaurant, and they actually got funding earlier than they thought. So this is an example of how your brand story book can, live on beyond you. Once you have that brand strategy book, you suddenly have a brand manager on staff 24/7. You can use it to help you make your packaging a little bit more exciting. You can write emails that are more likely to get opened. You can make selfie walls that are irresistible. Yep, that's me. I couldn't resist. It can help you tell a story with your packaging and your product so that you get remembered. Basically, it helps you go from ho hum to hell yeah, and it turns all of your customers into huge fans. Ultimately, we want them to commit. We want them to put the ring on the finger. We want them to put the sticker on the laptop. And I know it's a jungle out there, but now you do have a map. And that's my talk on the power of why and how it can really turbo boost your branding and marketing.
All righty. Well, thank you all for staying with us. We have been looking at the power of why from an external lens. Now we're going to look at it from a more internal lens, having to do with a leader in their organization. So before we get to that, I'm going to begin by telling you my why. and my story. So I transitioned a 30 plus year career in organizational development because I saw time and time again where you had these brilliant people. They were individual contributors, they were technical, they were analytical, they were doing tangible work, and they were constantly being promoted into people leadership. And then it was like, okay, go lead. And they didn't know how. When you are working with the tangibles, moving into an intangible becomes complex. And like everything else we do, we need some help with it, right? So I decided that I've seen this. I changed my job like every 2 to 3 years because I always went in and built and created. And when it became maintenance, I left. So I was in many different industries. And as someone had said before, the industry didn't matter because it's people. And I was working with people. So I worked in many industries. And in every industry I was in, I saw the same problems where people were placed in people leadership roles and they failed. And when your leaders fail, your retention fails and you stop being able to hire the best and the brightest because your reputation goes downhill. So I decided to start my own business. And what I do is I help organizations for those people who have transformed into a leadership role. I help fill that gap. So I help them figure out what is it that they need to be doing to help their people so that they go from being really high potential into becoming a visionary leader. All right, so we're going to talk about understanding the internal significance of why. And as we do that, I want you to think of this. Embrace your inner 2-year-old. What do 2-year-olds do all the time? They ask why. Why do you think 2-year-olds ask why? Take yourselves off mute and someone yell it out. Why are 2-year-olds asking why?
Curious.
They are curious. And it's because they have to synthesize so much around them, right? And we just don't think about that they don't know this or it's different for them. So our job is to help them understand. Well, as a leader, your job is to create a vision, a future state, and help people understand the why. So when you're sharing your story, you need to be sharing your compelling story, your why, your vision. Leadership is about crafting your vision. It's you look at, so first of all, some people find this confusing or they confuse it. So I'll just say your mission is why you do what you do. Your vision is your future state. It's where you're hoping to get to. And you communicate that through a compelling story. You explain the why. And when you do that, you get people into alignment around your vision. They get excited about the new, uncharted direction. And any misunderstandings of your why are eliminated because you've given them the tool of knowledge. You've created a sense of urgency around your compelling story. People understand the future state, they get excited about achieving results, and they see the big picture. And importantly, they understand how they fit that big picture. That really is the goal of leadership. We talk about all different things, but if leaders do this, they will succeed. And that's what I work with them on. All right. So, how do you develop this in an organization? So, as I said, you create your vision, you share it. And when you share your vision, all of a sudden you have a bunch of people aligning around it, and they're aligning around common objectives. So rather than people not understanding and going off in different directions, you have an entire group of people working towards a common goal. And when you could connect with that shared vision and you're excited about it because you know what the outcome is, you know how you are part of that outcome, you understand how you make a difference, your engagement increases. Gallup did a study. They did a study, I think it was in February, and they found that employee engagement is at the lowest it's been in decades. When employee engagement is low, people stop caring. Remember back a couple of years ago, the whole big thing was quietly quitting? Well, by the way, that wasn't new. People have been quietly quitting for decades. It's called lack of engagement. So when you get people excited about your vision, their engagement increases. And when it increases, you get higher productivity. And one of the reasons you get the higher productivity is people understand where you're going and what you expect, how you're part of it. And when they get to an obstacle, let's say, they can work together because they understand the pieces. They can work together to make different decisions and to make decisions better in order to get to the outcomes you're looking for. So when you are clear, you align people around your vision and you align around decision making and problem solving. And things start to work in a smoother way to get you to where you are looking to be. Are there any questions about that? This is a really important piece about leadership. And when you worked on this and you learn how to do this, you will be unstoppable. All right. Now that you understand the importance of why, let's talk about putting it into action. All right. We have a three-part process. So I've said this. You want to establish your clear vision. So that means, where do you want your company to be? Okay. You get people into alignment. And what Alyssa was saying before, you need to have that emotional connection. So you get people excited about where you're going. You help people understand how they are part of it. You get them to where it just becomes who they are. I used to work for a place, and many years ago, it was in the late 90s, and we probably used a really bad descriptor, but we used it anyway. We used to say, if you cut our veins, logos come out, because we were all so excited. I know it's pretty horrible, but we were all so excited about the work that we did and how we help people. And by the way, it was a debt management company, and we were helping people to avoid bankruptcy. So when you think of it that way, it's not really sexy, right? But we were helping people gain control of their lives and reestablish their personal vision to getting to where they want to be. That is pretty sexy. So we had a great why, and we would tell it. And every person, from the porter who put paper in the printers to the people on the phone, when they would get a call from someone saying, tell me why I shouldn't end my life. And I honestly, that was a call that I was monitoring. Tell me why I shouldn't end my life. I just don't know how to get out of debt. To the people who called us back and said, I've gotten out of debt and I can now do things for my family again without fear. That's huge. And that was an unbelievable vision with a why that we all understood and embraced. And we were able to get outcomes and achieve results we never expected. Any questions? All right, get ready because we're going to try this out. So hopefully we could break out into breakout groups. Otherwise, we'll just do it together. I want you to think about your vision for the future. What is the future state for you and your organization? And then how are you going to share it? And as you think about sharing your story, go back to your inner 2-year-old and think about the why and how you're going to share that in a way that it's a compelling story and you get people super excited. So anyone and everyone who works with you or works around you sees it, understands it, and is in alignment with you, is going to help you achieve it, and you're going to get your why. Any questions? All right. I think the two of us as hosts are not going to answer the questions unless you want to, Alyssa, because I want to make sure that we move on a bit and get everything done. Does anyone want to hear our vision and why? Or you guys understand? Oh, you do want to hear. Okay, I'll go. So the vision for my organization is I continue to support small to mid-sized organizations in all different fields. I also do some work with nonprofits. And my why is as I work with them and I help them build really strong leaders, and sometimes I even get the pleasure of working with emerging leaders who aren't people leadership, but they're being coached and trained so that they can be outstanding people leaders. I get to be part of every organization I work with. I get to be part of their success by seeing their people outshine and do all the things that they knew they had the capability of, but they just needed the tools to understand how to make it happen. That's what I see for myself in the future. All
That's
right,
amazing, Helene. All
that's all
right, since I'm
yours.
getting voluntold, my vision, my vision for the future of my company is that brand strategy is truly like the Force in Star Wars. If you can harness it and put it to use for your business, it radically impacts like your sales, your marketing, and makes everything easier. And my vision is that it's something that's in everyone's business plan from here on out. Just how you have a marketing section in your business plan, you should have a branding section. I want to make it accessible for all and continue to get hired as a consultant to do it for those who can hire me. My why is my whole life I've been passionate about putting my creativity to work. I love the way creativity, art, writing can truly be a powerful tool, and can do everything from motivating people, exciting them, capturing their imagination, inspiring them. Sometimes someone will say something to you and you'll remember it for years. It truly has an impact. So my passion is taking my creativity and figuring out how to put it to work to help others and to like make a difference, not just art for art's sake, because design is not art. Design has a purpose. And if it's not accomplishing something, it's not design, it's art. So putting my creativity to work is my why.
Great, thank you. All right. So now we understand this, right? So we're going to look at how to sustain momentum and engagement because you start doing something, you get really psyched about it, people seem to be excited about it, and then it starts to wane. So we're going to look at what we need to do. First of all, you're going to identify champions. Look at those people who love what you do and are excited about what you do and are going to tell others about why they should be doing this. Why they become your champions. And you know who your best champions are? Have you worked with people and they're always the naysayers? They're the ones who are always like, this isn't going to work. This isn't nothing. It's just another thing we're looking at. This won't matter. When you turn them around and you get them to understand your compelling story, your why, and you get them in alignment, they become your biggest champions. So get your champions, get them to help. It doesn't have to be all you. Use the people around you to help. When you can ensure that people understand your vision and your why, then you are able to create magic. Not to be too coachy, but your message needs to be consistent. So people need to understand the vision and the why, but then they can tell the story in a way that's comfortable for them. So you can adapt your storytelling for style. So for instance, I work with a lot of highly technical people. If I say to them, this is so wonderful and you should do this because I really believe in it and it gets me really excited, I have completely shut them down. Have you heard the expression your brain chunks? It kind of is like a computer that goes bloop and it's done. So when you do something like that, when you're talking to highly technical people and you're like, this is so great, you should love it as much as me, your story is not going to align with them. If you're talking to very technical people, you talk facts, not emotions, and you're going to get them into an alignment with you. When you're talking with people who are not as technical and who are doing things with their gut, then you could change that story or you change your how. So your story has to be consistent. So your champions have to understand how the story should be told, and then they can tell it in a style that works for them and with the audience. Does that make sense? Okay. Another way to continue the momentum is to build feedback loops. So it's really hard when you have something and you think it's so amazing and you're really excited about this is great, and then you get feedback and people are like, this doesn't work because it's really, really easy to get defensive. But what you have to do is create feedback loops where you look at it from the perspective of how do we want to execute this? So, how do we tweak and change in order to keep the vision alive? Maybe update a few things, work through the improvements to get to the final outcome. And a great way to build feedback loops is to really get your champions to help you with that because they might not have the negative response to some feedback that you might have. So engage those people around you, your champions, ask, be open-minded so that you can hear what other people are saying so you could do it in a way that brings value to all. Does that make sense? And what you really don't want to do is go through and make changes. So you need to stay consistent. And it's really easy when you're creating something and you're excited about it and you reach a little snafu and you're like, and then you go like, oh, bright shiny object. And you move to the next thing. I call that, others do as well, the bright shiny object syndrome. Don't fall for it. When it's not going perfectly or engagement is kind of getting lower, look at your why. Why is it that people aren't as excited about this as they were? Why is this not taking place the way I intended it to be? And start again looking at your why, looking at how to get people into alignment, go to your champions and start working and stay consistent. Consistency is your key to success. And with that, I will say thank you all for sticking through this with us today. If you have any questions, please let me know. Feel free to email me your questions. Feel free to text me. Just tell me who you are when you text me. And any questions right now, I'm happy to answer them.